Valentine's Day. A day of love, romance, and whispered promises. In Jeffersonville, Indiana, the streets are lined with the familiar signs of affection. Red roses wrapped in delicate plastic, heart-shaped balloons tied to park benches, and couples huddled together against the cool February air. In homes across the city, candlelit dinners are being prepared, love letters are exchanged, and the quiet hum of celebration fills the night. For Taylor and Deborah Meyer, this day was supposed to be special, a moment to reflect on their years together, to celebrate their bond. Taylor, a husband and father, had planned everything, meticulously, thoughtfully. A Paris-themed evening, a dress carefully chosen for his wife. Soft music, a table set with food, wine, and the warmth of shared memories. But as the night unfolded, something was shifting beneath the surface. A tension, silent but growing, hidden in the spaces between each exchanged glance. A weight hanging heavy in the air. No one outside their home knew it yet, but within those walls, an irreversible chain of events had already been set in motion. And when the clock struck midnight, love would no longer be the defining emotion of the day. By the time the world learned what had happened, it was already too late. This is the story of a Valentine's Day that ended in tragedy, of a marriage unraveling behind closed doors, and of the final, harrowing moments that turned an ordinary home into a crime scene. This is the story of Taylor Meyer, before the headlines, before the police report, before the shattered glass and unanswered questions. There was just a man and a woman. Two people who, at one point, believed they had found something real, something lasting. Taylor Meyer grew up in Jeffersonville, Indiana, a quiet city that carried the charm of small-town life. His childhood was ordinary, perhaps even forgettable in the best way possible. He was raised in a middle-class home, the son of a father who worked in manufacturing and a mother who taught elementary school. His parents weren't wealthy, but they provided stability. He played baseball in the summers, rode his bike through the winding neighborhood streets, and spent his teenage years much like any other kid from his town, dreaming of the future, but never quite sure where he would land. Deborah, on the other hand, had a childhood that looked a little different. She was the eldest of 3 siblings, raised in a home filled with both love and struggle. Her father was a truck driver, often gone for weeks at a time, leaving her mother to juggle work and raising the kids. Despite the challenges, Deborah thrived. She was bright, outgoing, and full of life, a stark contrast to Taylor's quiet, reserved nature. They met in college. Taylor, the serious and introspective business major, and Deborah, the free-spirited communications student with an easy laugh and a talent for making people feel seen. Their connection was unexpected, but perhaps that's what made it work. Their relationship moved quickly. Within 2 years, Taylor had proposed, slipping a modest but meaningful ring onto Deborah's finger in the middle of a crowded cafe. She said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was small, attended by close friends and family, a celebration filled with promises and the hopeful glow of a life yet to be built. But love, no matter how deeply felt in the beginning, is rarely enough on its own. Over the next 10 years, they built what most would call a picture-perfect life. 3 children, a suburban home with a neatly trimmed lawn, a family dog. Taylor found steady work as an operations manager for a logistics company, while Deborah took on part-time marketing roles and managed the household. To outsiders, they seemed happy. But behind the white picket fence, things weren't always as they seemed. Marriage, as many come to learn, is built on more than just love. It requires patience, understanding, and compromise. And somewhere along the way, the foundation of their relationship began to crack. It was subtle at first. Small disagreements that left a bitter aftertaste. Moments of silence stretched longer than they used to. The way Taylor would check his phone a little more often during dinner. The way Deborah's laughter no longer seemed quite as effortless. And then, of course, there was the issue of trust. Taylor had always been the kind of man who needed control, who needed to understand the world around him in clear, logical terms. And when things stopped making sense, when Deborah's schedule seemed to shift without explanation, when her phone became something she guarded more closely, his mind began to fill in the blanks. Was it paranoia? Was it intuition? Or was it something far worse? People saw what they wanted to see: a devoted husband, a loving wife. In the quiet town of Jeffersonville, Indiana, Valentine's Day was meant to be a celebration of love and devotion. Taylor Meyer had meticulously planned a Paris-themed evening to rekindle the fading spark with his wife Deborah. But as the night unfolded, unspoken tensions and deep-seated suspicions turned a romantic gesture into a harrowing tragedy. The evening began with high hopes. Taylor had transformed their dining room into a Parisian bistro, complete with soft lighting, French music, and a specially chosen red dress for Deborah. Their 3 children had contributed by crafting Eiffel Tower decorations, adding a personal touch to the ambiance. However, as the dinner progressed, Taylor couldn't shake the feeling of Deborah's detachment. She seemed distant, her smiles not reaching her eyes, and her compliments felt obligatory. The elaborate effort he had invested appeared to go unappreciated, intensifying his underlying fears of her infidelity. Midway through the evening, Deborah excused herself, stating she needed to step out briefly. She left the house for approximately 20 minutes, a period during which Taylor's mind raced with dark possibilities. His suspicions flared, leading him to believe she had met with her alleged lover during this time. The romantic evening he had envisioned was unraveling, replaced by a growing sense of betrayal and anger. Upon Deborah's return, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. Taylor confronted her, demanding to know where she had been. The discussion quickly escalated into a heated argument, with accusations flying and emotions running high. In a desperate attempt to uncover the truth, Taylor reached for Deborah's phone, seeking evidence of her alleged affair. Upon Deborah's return, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. Taylor confronted her, demanding to know where she had been. The discussion quickly escalated into a heated argument, with accusations flying and emotions running high. In a desperate attempt to uncover the truth, Taylor reached for Deborah's phone, seeking evidence of her alleged affair. A physical struggle ensued over the device, during which Taylor's emotions boiled over. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a wine bottle from the table and struck Deborah, causing her to fall. Blinded by fury and betrayal, he then retrieved a kitchen knife and inflicted multiple stab wounds. The violence was sudden and brutal, a stark contrast to the evening's intended celebration. In the aftermath, Taylor, in a state of shock and confusion, sent a message to a family group chat, informing them of the tragic event. Their 3 children, asleep upstairs, remained unaware of the horror that had unfolded beneath them. The night that was meant to rekindle love had instead ended in irrevocable loss and devastation. Following the violent confrontation, Taylor Meyer, overwhelmed by a mix of rage and despair, took a photograph of his wife Deborah's lifeless body. In a chilling move, he sent this image to her alleged lover, accompanied by the accusatory message, "Your fault." His need to communicate the gravity of his actions didn't stop there. Taylor reached out to family and friends, confessing to the crime through a series of messages. In these communications, he detailed the events that had transpired, expressing a twisted sense of justification rooted in his belief in Deborah's infidelity. Law enforcement became involved when one of Deborah's friends received the distressing messages and immediately contacted the authorities. Upon arrival at the Meyer residence, officers were met with a gruesome scene. Deborah's body bore approximately 40 stab wounds, a testament to the ferocity of the attack. Amidst the chaos, the couple's 3 young children were found asleep upstairs, miraculously unaware of the horror that had unfolded below. Ensuring their safety became a priority, and they were swiftly placed under protective care. Taylor Meyer was taken into custody without resistance. During initial interrogations, he confessed to the crime, citing his wife's perceived indifference to his Valentine's Day efforts and his suspicions of her affair as the catalysts for his actions. The immediate aftermath of Deborah Meyer's death profoundly affected her 3 young children, who were asleep in the house during the incident. Suddenly orphaned from their mother and with their father facing severe legal consequences, the children's lives were irrevocably altered. Extended family members stepped in to provide care, grappling with their own grief while striving to offer stability and support to the traumatized children. On February 14, 2025, Taylor Meyer, 34, was arrested by Jeffersonville police and charged with the murder of his wife, Deborah. The arrest followed his alleged confession to the crime and the disturbing messages he sent to family members. Meyer was subsequently held without bond, reflecting the severity of the charges against him. During his initial court appearance, Meyer entered a plea of not guilty to the charges. This plea set the stage for a comprehensive legal process, wherein both the defense and prosecution would prepare their respective cases for trial. The trial of Taylor Meyer is scheduled to commence later this year. As the proceedings approach, both legal teams are meticulously crafting their strategies. The defense is anticipated to explore several avenues to mitigate Meyer's culpability, arguing that Meyer acted in a state of temporary insanity or diminished capacity due to emotional distress, potentially stemming from his belief in his wife's infidelity, contending that the act was not premeditated but occurred in the heat of the moment, which could lead to a lesser charge of manslaughter. The prosecution is expected to focus on the following elements to establish Meyer's guilt. 1. Premeditation evidence, highlighting any indications that Meyer had contemplated the crime prior to its commission, such as prior threats or documented suspicions. 2. Severity of the attack, emphasizing the brutality of the assault, notably the multiple stab wounds inflicted, to demonstrate intent to kill. 3. Post-crime behavior, drawing attention to Meyer's actions following the incident, including the photographs sent to Deborah's alleged lover and his confessions, to illustrate consciousness of guilt. As the trial date approaches, the community remains attentive, seeking justice for Deborah Meyer, while grappling with the profound impact of this tragic event on the Meyer family and the broader Jeffersonville community. The emotional ripple effect extended to friends and neighbors who had perceived the Meyers as a typical family. Feelings of shock, disbelief, and sorrow permeated the community as they struggled to reconcile the brutal reality with their previous perceptions. In response to the tragedy, the Jeffersonville community mobilized to support the affected family and raise awareness about domestic violence. Vigils were organized to honor Deborah's memory, providing a space for collective mourning and reflection. Local organizations, such as the Clark County Youth Shelter and Family Services, offered counseling and resources to those impacted, emphasizing the importance of addressing domestic violence and its far-reaching consequences. Public discourse intensified around the issue of domestic violence, with community leaders advocating for enhanced support systems and preventive measures. Educational programs were initiated to inform residents about recognizing signs of domestic abuse and the resources available for those in need. This collective introspection aimed to foster a safer environment and prevent similar tragedies in the future. The tragic story of Taylor and Deborah Meyer is one that forces us to confront the darkness that can hide behind the most ordinary of lives. A Valentine's Day meant for love and celebration turned into a nightmare, leaving a family shattered and a community grieving. What led to this violent end? Was it jealousy, rage, or something far more complicated? But beyond this one case, what does this story reveal about the hidden struggles within relationships? How many red flags go unnoticed before it's too late? Domestic violence doesn't always begin with physical harm. It often starts in silence. Small changes in behavior, words left unsaid, moments of control disguised as love. If this tragedy teaches us anything, it is that intervention must come before it's too late. And so, the question remains, How many others are living in the shadows of their own silent battles, waiting for someone to notice before their story ends in tragedy? If you or someone you know is in a dangerous situation, seek help. No one should suffer in silence. This story is more than just a headline. It's a wake-up call. Domestic violence can happen anywhere, and raising awareness is the first step toward preventing another tragedy. If this story resonated with you, know that help is available. No one should endure fear or suffering in silence. There's more to uncover. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a gripping true crime story.